Nice to have you here. Thanks for coming. Hey, well, welcome to Forklift Basics. Let's start at the top. A forklift is a mechanical device classified as a type of powered industrial truck. Like other equipment of this type, such as motorized pallet jacks, a forklift is used to move or lift loads. Pretty simple, right? Well, forklifts can cause serious injury or death if they're misused, improperly maintained, or if the operator isn't properly trained on how to use the equipment safely. While there are many similarities between forklifts, such as basic operating controls, there are also many differences. For example, some forklifts are approved for use in certain hazardous locations, while others are not. And some are built for specific tasks and work environments. If you're thinking of a powered industrial truck, you might visualize the standard sit-down forklift. It's the most common type. You may encounter other powered industrial trucks where you work, like stand-up rider trucks, order pickers, or powered pallet jacks. Some forklifts use specialized attachments for handling loads other than pallets, like barrel clamps or roll handlers. Some even use attachments to elevate workers. And each of these units and attachments has its own purpose and set of safety considerations, but all are covered under the same OSHA standard. On top of being categorized by class, the OSHA standard specifies 11 designations or types of powered industrial trucks. These types are based on the truck's power source and built-in safeguards to operate in hazardous environments. You never imagined there were so many, did you? Well, your supervisor will make sure the proper forklift is selected for each job. Remember, if you're ever unsure if it's the right type, don't hesitate to ask. Your safety depends on it. Moving on to steering, forklifts steer from the rear wheels, giving them a tighter turning radius so they can maneuver in some pretty tight spots. There is a downside though. Forklifts are not very nimble. Let's hear what an expert has to say about forklift handling.
You have to take extra caution when navigating corners and moving with loads. Keep an eye out for coworkers that might not know as much as you do about driving a forklift. Forklifts are actually much heavier than cars. They're made that way to counterbalance the loads carried up front. As a forklift operator, you need to constantly think about balance in order to keep your unit from tipping. Think of a loaded forklift like you would a teeter-totter. If there's too much weight on the forks or attachments, it's going to tip.
Every forklift is required to have a data plate. It may also be referred to as a nameplate, capacity plate, or ID plate. The plate matches key information, including the model and serial number of the truck, the weight of the truck, and its load capacity. Verify every load to be sure it's within the rated capacity of your forklift. Here's a quick tip. Off-centered, irregularly shaped, or oversized loads significantly reduce the forklift's listed capacity and stability. Don't rush and wind up on the floor. Check with your supervisor when you need to handle oversized or irregular loads, especially when they're near the maximum listed capacity. The teeter-totter concept is a good start. Here's another key tool you should use: the stability triangle. Imagine a triangle placed between the axles. Points A and B are a straight line between the front tires. Point C is centered on the rear axle. This triangle holds your safe center of gravity. When unloaded, the center of gravity is located around the middle of the forklift. Adding a load, moving it up or down, and traveling with it shifts the center of gravity. There's also what's called the line of action, which travels up and down with the load. It's a lot to consider. But that's why you need to understand your load and take care when moving with it. Anytime you shift outside the stability triangle, you're in danger of tipping over.
Even an unloaded forklift can tip from the weight of its counterbalance, so don't rush to your next destination and never engage in horseplay. If you've never operated a forklift, you'll want to get a good feel for the controls before you operate one for the first time. These general controls include forward and reverse directional controls, lift controls, accelerator and brake pedals, and the parking brake. You'll get the hang of these quickly with a little practice.
Although most forklifts have the same basic controls and functions, where they're located on the unit will be different depending on the manufacturer, model, and type. And because no two models are exactly alike, each has its own set of operating procedures and safety rules. Your company will provide training on the specific type of forklift you'll be operating, or one that is similar, including the function of all its controls. It's a good idea for you to read the operator's manual so you know exactly what to expect when using the forklift. Remember to use the forklift that is best suited to the task and your environment. You'll find forklifts can fit where other equipment cannot, but must be balanced at all times to ensure the safety of you and your coworkers. Get accustomed to the controls of each forklift you'll operate and take a moment to familiarize yourself with the unit's functions before you start picking up and moving loads. Always practice safe operating procedures every time you step up to the controls of a forklift. Remember, you're the one person responsible for your safety and the safety of others when operating this equipment. The very first step in safe operating procedures is to make sure your forklift is ready for the day's work ahead. OSHA requires that all powered industrial trucks, including forklifts, be examined at least daily before being placed in service. If the forklift is used around the clock, it needs to be examined after every shift. The defects may be corrected by a qualified person, but it may be up to you as the forklift operator to conduct a pre-use inspection at the start of your shift. Come on, let's go out and take a look at what we're talking about. Time to dive back into the operator manual. Follow the manufacturer's instructions in here and use your employer's checklist for guidance. It's a good idea to have a checklist to make sure you don't miss any steps. The checklist can also be saved as part of the maintenance record. There are two parts to a pre-use inspection: the walk-around inspection and the seated inspection. Let's watch another pro handle a walk-around inspection.
When performing the walk-around, start with the tires, making sure that they're in good condition. Inspect the belts, cables, and hoses for defects or signs of excessive wear, such as cracks, pinholes, or leaks. Check the fluid levels and look for signs of leaks in the area. The engine or power source should be in good condition without any loose connections. Scan the forks, backrest, mast, and overhead guard for any cracks, dents, or broken welds. And make sure you can read the data plate and any warning label.
To begin the seated inspection, use the three-point technique to climb aboard. Grab a secure part of the forklift with each hand and put one foot securely on the forklift. Settle in and secure that seatbelt. It needs to buckle and tighten for a good fit. Stay seated and turn on the forklift. Look over the gauges, warning lights, and battery or fuel levels. Check your safety equipment, including lights, to make sure it's all working properly. Use the controls to lift and lower the forks, then tilt the mast. The controls should work smoothly and be clearly labeled. Give the horn a beep. You'll need it at intersections and any time you can't see clearly. Test your brakes by moving forward a few feet and pressing the pedal. Expect some resistance and confirm you can stop smoothly and reliably. Solid steering is important. A lot of play or hard steering will reduce your control. You're almost done. Set and test the parking brake, put the controls in neutral, and then climb out of the forklift to check the ground for leaks. Leaks could indicate a hydraulic problem, and fluids left on the floor are a slipping hazard. And if the lift isn't battery powered, look for sparks or flames coming out of the exhaust system and listen for any unusual sounds. If everything checks out, you're all set to put the forklift to work. However, if you see a problem or defect with the forklift, don't use it. Remove it from service immediately and report it to your supervisor. Don't take chances with a forklift that isn't ready for duty. Make sure your forklift is ready for use by completing a thorough inspection. Walk around the forklift checking for any defects. Take a beat and verify your safety equipment and controls are functioning properly. Inspections are one of those safety routines that always pays off. In a typical workday, you may use a forklift to move dozens of loads of all shapes and sizes throughout your facility. And although this task can seem boring and routine, especially if you're an experienced operator, it's crucial not to overlook the potential dangers that a forklift can pose. The forklifts are surprisingly easy to tip, especially when handling a load. Now take care and remember these three basics. Wear any required personal protective equipment, or PPE, mount and dismount using 3 points of contact, and fasten your seatbelt right away. Come on, let's get out there and actually see what's going on. Before you pick up a load, make sure you know exactly what you'll be lifting. There's a big difference between a light centered load and a heavy off-center load. Confirm the load is within the capacity limits for the forklift. Is it balanced? Will it be secure? If the load is unstable, restack it or attach the load securely to the pallet with shrink wrap. If there's any possibility that the load might fall backward, make sure there's a load backrest extension in place. If the load has an uneven shape, be aware of any special stacking requirements before you pick it up. Know where and how you'll safely stack the load before you lift it. And don't forget, the shape of the load could affect the center of gravity and your unit's stability.
There are a few things you want to make sure you do as you pick up a load. Before you raise a load, check for overhead obstructions. Look for things like lights, pipes, or sprinkler systems. Set the width of the forks as far apart as possible under the load to evenly distribute the weight. Next, drop the forks to the floor and slowly position them under the load, driving forward until the forks are completely under the load. If it's a stable load and secure on the pallet, tilt the load against the backrest, then lift. If the load is unstable, lift the load slightly first. Then carefully tilt it back so that the load stays tight against the backrest. If you are lifting from a rack, back out slowly until you've cleared the rack and any other obstacles. Finally, once the load is lifted, lower to a safe traveling height. Keep the forks just high enough to clear the ground, usually just a few inches off the floor if it's smooth.
Before traveling with a load, make sure you know what route you're going to take. Look around you for pedestrians. Make sure your path is clear of debris or other objects. Also check to see you have plenty of clearance between your forklift and any racks or shelves. As a forklift operator, you always need to pay close attention to what's going on around you. Here are some general rules for safe travel with the load. Remember, the lower the load is, the more stable it is. Always travel with the forks and load as high as necessary to clear the travel surface, but no higher. And understand you may have to raise them slightly to travel over bumps or seams from time to time. But with all that said, don't raise or lower the forks while driving. Raising or lowering the forks while driving causes the forklift and the load's combined center of gravity to shift unpredictably, increasing your chances of tipping over. Look in the direction of travel and keep a clear view of your path. If your work area has convex mirrors at corners and blind spots, use them. Sound your horn at corners and blind spots, and then proceed slowly. Remember, pedestrians always have the right of way. Split stacked or large loads to move them. If you can't split the load and it blocks your view, travel in reverse. Use a spotter or both. Spotters are there to quickly notify you of hazards. Be sure you and your spotter agree on hand signals ahead of time. Remember, your forklift has rear steering and the rear end will swing wide when making turns. And if you're moving a load in reverse, the opposite is true. Don't forget to allow room for the load to swing too. Always travel at a safe speed. Determining what a safe speed is depends on what you're moving, the space available, and other traffic, as well as things like bumps, depressions, or debris. It's not easy to stop or swerve with a heavy forklift. Never exceed the speed limits of your work area and always go slowly enough to maneuver and stop safely at any time. Don't forget, horseplay is never acceptable. Forklifts are tools, not toys. Never travel with any part of your body outside of the forklift's protective frame. A hand or a foot could easily get pinched or crushed. And don't do any stunt driving. When driving in reverse, don't wrap your hand around any outside guards. If you do and the lift runs into something, your hand will be crushed. Don't let anyone walk or stand under the elevated forks. Never carry passengers. And only lift another person using a forklift if the lift is equipped with a manufacturer-approved personnel platform. Never lift anyone standing on the forks or a pallet. Ramps and inclines are common to loading areas and can easily cause a forklift to tip over. And when traveling on an incline without a load, the fork should point downhill regardless of direction. When traveling with a load on an incline, keep the load on the uphill side of the forklift. Be extra careful, travel slowly, and keep a safe distance from the edge of ramps or inclines. Don't angle the forklift or make any turns while it's on an incline, as this could cause the unit to tip. Tight spaces like shop areas, trucks, semi-trailers, or railroad cars may be a frequent challenge. The first thing you should do each time is to make sure it's safe. Follow these practices when working in tight spaces. Before driving onto a truck, trailer, or railroad car, verify it is properly secured. Vehicle engines should be off, wheel chocks in place, the brakes of the vehicle should be set, and as a best practice, it should also be secured by mechanical means, such as a restraining system. If there's no tractor attached to the trailer, don't rely on the trailer's landing gear alone to keep it stable. When driving your forklift to the front of a trailer, use trailer jacks to prevent the trailer from tipping or collapsing. Open the freight doors to see if the trailer is well lit inside. Never use the forklift to perform this task. Verify the forklift mast will clear the ceiling and make sure you won't exceed the trailer's capacity rating. Also, inspect the flooring for obstructions, loose objects, holes, or weak points. When you enter a tight area, enter with the load end leading. Use a trained spotter to guide you, especially when the load restricts your visibility. Always be aware of your surroundings and maintain a safe operating distance from the walls and product inside the tight space you are operating in. And if the trailer is not ventilated, ensure you are not at risk of carbon monoxide poisoning. Exhaust fumes and emissions from some types of forklifts may build up inside. And if you experience headaches, nausea, or dizziness, they may be signs of overexposure. Seek medical attention immediately. Let's head over to a loading dock specialist who will share important guidelines for working with dock boards.
Dock boards are used to safely bridge the gap between a dock and a trailer. Double check your dock board to make sure it is designed for the maximum intended load, which is the combined weight of the load, the forklift, and you. Any dock board installed after January 17, 2017 must have curbing or runoff guards to protect any vehicles from running off the edge, unless it can be shown there is no risk that can happen. There's more. Fall protection may need to be installed on dock boards where there is the potential for falls to a lower level. If you're using portable dock boards, they should be equipped with handholds or other means to permit safe handling. They must be secured by anchoring in place or using equipment or devices that prevent the dock board from moving or shifting out of place. Some dock boards have adjustable locking pins that help prevent movement or safety stops on the underside of the dock board that fit between the dock and the vehicle. Make sure portable dock boards overlap both the dock and the trailer by a safe distance. A best practice is at least 8 inches. Inspect dock boards regularly and as necessary for cracks, bends, and any other signs of failure. If you spot any defect, they'll have to be repaired before that dock board is used again. A qualified person needs to be involved with any repairs involving a dock board's structural integrity. Remove it from service if repairs cannot be done. You don't want anyone else using a defective dock board, right?
Every time you operate a forklift, you'll need to be on the lookout for potential hazards. It'll be up to you to find a way to negotiate these hazards safely. Let's take a look at some pretty common examples. You'll probably encounter wet, oily, or icy surfaces along your route. Avoid them when you can and get someone to clean them up as soon as possible. Any loose objects, bumps, or depressions in the floor can cause you to lose control of the steering, bring the forklift to a sudden stop, or tip the forklift. There are hazardous locations also where chemicals or other hazardous substances are present. Choose the right forklift for the area to avoid fire or even explosion hazards. If you come across railroad tracks, take them on a 45-degree angle so you don't get stuck or shift your balance. Keep a safe distance from other forklifts. At least 3 forklift lengths in front of and behind you is a good rule of thumb. And don't pass other forklifts. The increased speed, intersections, and other hazards just drive up the chances of an accident. Watch for pedestrians. They probably work around you and pass through on a regular basis. So slow down, sound the horn, and take care at all intersections. Never approach a person head-on, especially a person standing in front of a fixed object like a wall or a rack. Imagine what would happen if you couldn't stop the forklift or it lurched forward. The worker could be pinned or crushed. Instead, approach parallel to the person. And remember, never let anyone walk under your raised forks. Stay buckled up. If your sit-down unit tips, That seatbelt is going to help you stay inside the forklift's protective frame. And trying to jump off runs the serious risk of you being pinned under the forklift or the load. So sit tight, hold onto the steering wheel, brace your feet, and lean away from the impact. And a pro tip for stand-up lift drivers, tip-overs in a stand-up lift are different from sit-down units. You should try to step clear of the equipment if you can. And now when it comes to placing a load, your goal is to ensure that your load is safe and stable. And that starts with making sure the surface where the load is to be placed is flat and sturdy so the load won't tilt. If you're stacking pallets, check the bottom pallet to confirm it's in good condition and can support the load. Don't damage materials by placing heavy loads on top of light loads. If the load is going in a rack or storage loft, it needs to be safely supported. Check the rack frame and decking. Damaged decking and bent or disconnected supports should be repaired before you place the load. Now, I've got just the person to show you how load placement is done.
I'm gonna show you how to break down the steps for placing a load. First, stop the forklift in front of where you want to place the load. Then, slowly raise the load to the required height. Move forward slowly with the raised load. Position the load for placement and tilt it forward so it is level. Next, place the load squarely and straight. Once the load settles, check behind you for pedestrians and other traffic. Then, back up slowly. Make sure the forks clear the pallet before turning or lowering the forks. Finally, lower the forks before moving again.
When it comes time to park the unit, be a safe and courteous coworker. Never park in front of walkways, stairways, or in front of an exit. And if you park the forklift on an incline, chock the wheels. Anytime you're within 25 feet and inside of the forklift, you can leave the engine running, but you must lower the forks to the ground, set the controls to neutral, and set the parking brake. Anytime you go beyond 25 feet from the forklift, or if the forklift is ever out of your sight, you've got one more thing to do. Turn off the unit right away, or head back and do it. Even if you stay within 25 feet, to be extra safe, it's a good idea to shut the unit off when you can. Follow your company's policy for managing the keys. Check your clearances and keep a safety cushion around your load while retrieving, traveling, and placing it. And make sure you have a clear view of your path and there aren't any obstructions along the way. Travel at a safe speed, watching for pedestrians that may be in the area. Be mindful of your company's safety procedures when working in tight spaces or when hazards are present. And check dock boards that may be in place to ensure they are secure and free of defects. And park forklifts in safe locations in a way that keeps the unit from moving while you are away. What keeps your forklift running like a top? Well, depending on how your unit is powered, you may need to refuel, charge, or change a battery or cylinder during your shift. Did you know any modifications or attachments may change the lift's capacity and functionality? You'll have to stay on top of that and more. But in the end, a little routine maintenance will help you keep your forklift in the safe operating condition you depend on. If you have permission and the proper training for battery or cylinder changes, take care of the job while wearing the right PPE. This may include eye and face protection, foot protection, gloves, and an apron. Know where the eye wash station is, as well as the shower and other emergency equipment like spill cleanup supplies. As an additional and probably obvious precaution, keep any open flames, including cigarettes, away from refueling areas. Looks like we're ready to see an LPG cylinder swap in action.
I always follow these steps when changing a cylinder. I have the unit parked with the engine running. I always make sure I have my protective gloves on so I can protect my hands from liquid propane freeze burns. Close the fuel line valve on the cylinder and let the engine run until it stops. This guarantees that the connection hose is empty of propane. Then shut off the ignition. I'm going to disconnect the hose and the holding straps. Then lift the empty cylinder off. Next up is replacing the empty cylinder with a full one. The locating pin should go through the hole in the cylinder handle. When the tank is seated, the relief valve should point straight up in the 12 o'clock position. That's all set, so it's time to connect the holding straps. The connecting nut gets tightened. Slowly open the valve on the cylinder part way and check for leaks. You want to smell, listen, and look. You can always brush on a solution of soap and water and look for bubbles. It seems obvious, but never use matches or a flame. If the valve leaks, tighten the nut, then try to open the valve again and check for leaks once more. If you're still getting the leaky valve, change the cylinder. If that doesn't work, have the hose changed or repaired. Once there are no leaks, slowly open the cylinder all the way. After you finish these steps, the forklift is ready for operation.
For gasoline or diesel forklifts, turn the engine off and set the parking brake. Make sure you have the proper fuel. Then remove the fuel cap and carefully fill the tank, making sure you don't overfill it. Finally, replace the fuel cap and clean up any spilled fuel before starting the engine. Now, anytime you're charging or changing a battery, be absolutely certain you know the safest way to do it. And always wear eye and skin protection when changing a battery, since battery acid is corrosive.
When you charge a battery, make sure the truck is in the designated charging area and be sure that the ventilation system is working properly. Charging a battery on a forklift is pretty straightforward. It goes like this. First, uncover the battery compartment to prevent heat or hydrogen gas buildup. Next, make sure that the vent caps aren't plugged. Then turn off the battery charger before connecting it to the battery. And make sure that metal objects don't contact the battery terminal.
If you dilute concentrated sulfuric acid with water to make a battery acid solution, remember to always add the acid to the water, not water to the acid. Adding water to acid could cause a violent reaction or explosion. However, if you need to add water to top off a battery, you can do it safely with the proper precautions because the acid in a forklift battery is already diluted. If there is the potential for exposure to electrolyte, wear safety goggles and a face shield, plus gloves and an apron. Carefully clean up any spilled electrolyte using proper safety procedures. Here's another method, changing the battery on a forklift.
Park the forklift in the changing area, then turn off the ignition. Then set the parking brake. Make sure the battery is securely attached to the hoist before lifting it, and stand clear as the battery is moved in and out of position.
Any modifications or attachments that affect the safe operation or capacity of a forklift must be approved in writing by the equipment manufacturer. The alterations must be changed on the unit's data plate and printed in the operating instructions so you know how the changes affect the unit's load capacity. Let's head back to the classroom to finish up. If the forklift has a non-standard front-end attachment, the data plate must identify it. The data plate must show the combined weight of the truck and the attachment at the maximum mast height with a centered load. And that's all done so you can be certain your forklift is capable of doing the job you need it to do. Aside from the daily inspections you'll need to conduct on your forklift, your company will need to have authorized personnel perform routine checks and preventative maintenance to keep the forklift in safe operating condition. Pay close attention to how your unit operates and report any problems during your shift. Forklift safety may involve a lot of factors, but knowing the controls and limitations of the units you operate and keeping them in mind will help you work without incident. Make sure you understand how to safely recharge or refuel the forklifts you're authorized to operate. Only install attachments or modifications if they are approved and the lift's capacity is updated. And take a proactive role in the maintenance of your forklift, reporting defects before they become deadly hazards. Imagine a sudden lowering of the forks, a drop of the load, or a tip over, or even a tip over.
And stand clear as the battery is moved in and out of position.
It looks great with the silhouette. Forklifts are extremely heavy, so they can handle the lowering and raising. Raising of rows.
Slow clap.